Live.
Bonjour, it is Amala Ekpunobi with PragerU. I am with...
Witt is your French expert here to talk to you guys today about all the news and breaking stuff.
And we are also with...
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs.
Now, this is a good one for Taylor because Taylor actually speaks French. Taylor's very talented. He's actually a polyglot.
Polyglot. That's an interesting
Taylor,
word.
speak to us in French.
I know a couple of words, but I'm not completely fluent, if you might say.
That is a beautiful accent, Taylor.
Well, today we've got some...
Will.
You just want to punch Will with the French
That voice just
accent?
makes me like, yeah. I don't know.
He does it, he's so aggressively French when he does his
I am
French
a
accent.
French freshman.
Where's my croissant? It's 5 minutes late.
Where is my order?
Oh my gosh. Anyways, you guys, we have some stories lined up for you today. And first off, we're going to start with a fun little video. Not so fun for us watching, but I'm sure you've seen it. It's been going viral recently all over social media. I believe it's also been on the news, but it's of a teacher essentially bullying one of her students. This is a teacher at a Wisconsin high school who is bullying one of her students for not wearing a mask. And just for a little bit of background, this student is also fully vaccinated. So Professeur et étudiant. I did take French for 2 years in high school. None of it really kept. I know a few words here and there. Taylor is far more wise.
Tu parles très belle, Amala. C'est excellent. Je suis très impressionné avec ton français.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Taylor. Anyways, we're going to jump right into this video so you can see this crazy, crazy teacher for yourselves. Here we go.
I don't care if you're vaccinated, you little dink.
Okay.
I don't want to get sick and die.
Okay.
There's other people you can infect just because you're vaccinated. You know what? You're not a special person around here. You should hear about how everybody talks about you.
I
You're
know how
a
people talk
jerk.
to me. I don't care how people
You're
talk
a
about
jerk.
me. Okay.
And you need to have respect for other people in your life.
I do.
You're not a big man on campus.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so you just caught a little clip of that. I mean, judging on how fervently she was going after this kid, I'm sure she went after him for much longer than just that 20 seconds.
This 300-pound woman's really worried about her health and safety, I can tell.
Exactly right. Yelling at this student, again, who is fully vaccinated for not wearing a mask in her class.
No, it's really upsetting. I can't imagine if my teacher ever did that. We were talking about this earlier.
Yes,
like
we
if I
were.
was a freshman in high school and this happened to me, I mean, I'd probably break down and start crying.
Right?
That would be so horrible. Like, this is someone who is an elder to you, someone who you're supposed to respect and everything, and this person starts berating him. The worst part is when she says, well, first of all, hilarious, little dink.
You little dink.
I've never heard that before in my entire life. We had to Urban Dictionary this before.
Yeah, we literally Googled it and had to figure out. What is it? It's like a Northeast term?
Yeah, it's like a Northeast term for like...
It stands for something.
Somebody being like an idiot, right?
Double
Yeah,
income,
something like
no
that.
kids.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
a dink,
I don't think that's what
a whole different
referring
thing.
to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if she said that, that wouldn't make much sense and also be very strange. But it's the worst part was when she says, you should hear what other people are saying about you. You're putting that into a kid's head. This is a kid. He's not an adult. You're putting into that kid's head that there are all these other people talking bad things about him.
Yep.
You're making him feel horrible. Like this teacher is going around just absolutely trying to shame this child and being rude to him, calling him a jerk. This is an adult who is getting paid to teach students, and you're bullying the kid.
Exactly. You could have had a very respectful conversation about what this kid was doing. You could have sat him down and said, hey, I don't feel comfortable with you doing this, even though that is not based in fact either. But no, she decided to make a huge scene in front of everybody in this classroom. And luckily you caught it on film. Luckily somebody in this classroom said, let me pull out my phone and catch this right here and right now, or else nobody would know that this is happening. And these sort of crazy teachers are a very big problem. And there's actually been some reporting on this. So the teacher is on leave right now and is being investigated for what she's done. But the video did not stop there. She actually said more. So I'm going to show you guys what she said. So she continues by saying, people don't like you. I don't like you, to this kid. And told this student that people are pretending to like him while he's around in school.
Oh my goodness.
And she said, the kid responds back and says, in a few years, look at me and you will be like, hey, I was wrong about that kid. So the teacher laughs off this comment and then responds, no, in a few years, I know exactly where you're going to be, because people with your attitude don't get very far. You treat people like crap, and people who treat others like crap don't get very far in life.
It's like these people, these extreme maskers, you know the types, like this lady, these extreme maskers, they want us to think that they are following the science and that they're so calm and they're so collected and they're only following all the right information and that they're totally level-headed. and then they're teachers and they get in front of a student, a minor, and they do this, and they still want us to think that they're on the right side or that they're level-headed. These people are lunatics.
Yeah.
This lady is a lunatic. There's no other way to say it. She is a crazy person going up to a child and saying that to him.
Yeah, and kudos to the kid for remaining calm, just sitting there and taking it and saying, you know, hey, you're wrong about me. I'm a great guy. And he stayed really, really even temperamental, like during this entire berating that this teacher was putting on him. It's crazy.
I would have been like, hold my backpack. Let me catch these hands real quick. Huh?
I could not have done that. I'm so unassertive. I would have cried if a teacher came at me like this in school. It'd be horrible.
Meet me in the basketball court. There was... Oh, that's so bad. That's so bad. I can't... This is why you homeschool your kids, everyone. This is why you homeschool your kids, because if you don't homeschool your kids, you either have this or you have, at least at the very least, you have leftist ideologies being pushed on your kids. Of course, there are ways to get around this, and you should be, as a parent, responsible for your children, teaching them good values, even if you are sending them to public school or even private school in some cases. But, I mean, if there's ever been a better time to homeschool your kids, it's now.
Yeah.
There's never been a better time. This is what you need to do.
This whole thing with COVID-19 and all these regulations has been really expository as to how our teacher unions are running, how teachers are functioning within their schools. I mean, look at all the kids who wanted to come back to school and reopen and go back to their peers, and teachers who didn't want to do so. And now, even with schools open, we have crazy teachers like this one in this video just berating their students for simply following guidelines. And I want to make that very clear, too. This kid is vaccinated. He's following the guidelines by not wearing a mask, yet that is still not enough for the teacher. It's still not enough for the sort of COVID hysteria that has overtaken our society. And I don't know when that's going to change and when people are going to calm down about all this, but this video is insane.
The teacher should be fired.
She should.
She's on administrative leave. She needs to be totally fired.
Yep.
I had a crazy math story the other day.
You did.
I did. It was pretty funny.
Share it with us.
Okay, so I was going to this place called Killer Noodle. I don't really go in for Asian food, but this place was pretty good. So I go to this place, Killer Noodle, and there's this guy standing there, and he's got a mask on outside, and he comes up to me, and he's like, hey, why are you wearing your mask on outside? I'm like, and my blood's starting to boil already. I'm like, oh, because I'm not going to get anyone sick because it's outside. He's like, but why not just wear the mask like everyone else? I'm like, because I don't want to. And he's like, but, you know, you should do it. Everyone else is doing it. You should do it. And I'm like, there's a 0.1% chance, 0.05% chance of anyone even catching the virus outside without a mask. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm wearing mine so that I don't look like a white, straight male conservative. And I was like, are you serious?
I would be fuming at this point.
I know. I was like, are you serious? And then he pulls down his mask and he goes, nah, man, I'm just screwing with you. I'm actually a big fan. I was like, ah.
That is such a good like little prank to pull.
No, that's a horrible prank. Guys, it's funny. It was funny that the guy did this, but please don't do this to me if you see me. If you see me in person, don't prank me like this, because I was getting mad at this guy. Because then he's like, oh, no, man, I'm a big fan. I'm like, yeah, still screw you, okay? You said this to me. You made me all upset.
Imagine you just start fighting this guy in the street and he's like, I'm a fan.
I know. Like, you ding, or you little dink.
You little
That's what you get.
It would be so, I thought about that in my situation, and if somebody came up to me and confronted me about that, and you're like, what if you caved and just put on your mask, and then it turns out he was actually a fan of you, and you just caved.
Right, that's why you can't, no matter what someone comes up to you, no matter how, like, pressing this person is on you, like, you can't put your mask on or do whatever they want you to do. Again, you don't play by the left's rulebook. So this kid just sitting there and saying, okay, like, that's what you have to do. You know, obviously he's not going to, like, berate his teacher back. He's a respectful young man. He's not going to do that. But you don't give in to these people's wishes when nothing they're saying is backed up by science, by facts, or even with your best interest at heart. It's only for themselves. It's for their own moral superiority that they want you to do this.
It is.
But
and
if you're watching this guy who did that to me, just know you're a real one. But
you really put Will to the test, and Will passed the test. He stuck by his values.
I did pass the test.
Just like this kid did.
That was something we talked about today. Is like when you like when you're in Will's position, you can never. I mean, anybody should, whether you have a platform or not. But this is why it's important to stick to your values, because you never know if you're just being tested by a random stranger. But it's good that you did, and props to to sticking to your guns.
Thanks, man. That's like. I mean, think about it like with the James O'Keefe stuff, with the Veritas. It is scary, though, because it's like, the James O'Keefe stuff, like, they did it all legally. I'm not trying to shame James O'Keefe or anything. They did this all legally and everything. But they got, they took the CNN guy out to lunch. It was like a Tinder date. And then they got him to expose the stuff. It's scary out here, man.
It is.
Like, it's some scary stuff.
Yeah, you never
what
know what's
people
going
wanna
on.
do. I know.
Yeah.
It's ferocious.
So you just have to stick to your guns and hold true to the things that you say and the things that you try to teach other people. And yeah, this is a prime example of it with this kid too. He just stuck to his guns. He sat there and he said, that's okay, that's how you feel, but I know who I am as a person. And you're going to look back on this event in a few years and you're going to think, wow, I was wrong about that kid. And I'm sure she won't do that because she seems very self-righteous. But these are the kind of people who are in our school systems right now. These are the kind of teachers who are in public schools. And if we did not have this on video, like I said before, it's crazy to think that these are who our kids are with.
And also just like, where's the accountability? Like, yes, she got suspended or whatever it is, but like, you know, there are only certain, you know, conservative leaning outlets are covering this or just doing anything about it. And for as much as mainstream media, the left is like, there's so much outrage anytime a person in a position of power, you know, uses that power to against someone who's more helpless. And this is a teacher that's like berating a student. And this is literally the kind of things that people go to therapy for.
Yes.
You know, that when you speak to someone's identity, like people are saying this about you, no one likes you, and saying you're not going to go anywhere in life. Like that is like terrible, traumatizing things. And yet, you know, she's basically getting a slap on the wrist as far as I'm concerned. And like, where's the public outcry, you know, from the left, from the mainstream media, that is holding this teacher accountable?
Yeah, they're supposed to be pro-kid. I mean, the left is supposed to be all pro-kid and pro-love and all that stuff, and you're not going to hear nothing about this from them. It's one thing, kids make fun of each other, okay? I got made fun of and bullied, and you do it to other kids. Like, that's just how it is when you're a kid growing up, okay? But when I never got bullied by a teacher. I never got bullied by a teacher. That's horrible. I can't imagine being this student.
Yeah,
and like the embarrassment from the other kids at school, too.
Exactly.
Like, and they're going to be like, a teacher yelled at you.
Yeah, I mean, and this video is viral. Like, everybody has seen this. And it's like to have one of what is already an embarrassing moment with this teacher berating him and yelling at him be shown everywhere across the world is just another crazy level on top of that. And I can only imagine what this woman acts like when she teaches and what sort of subject matter she's teaching in school, because you already know where she leans politically just by looking at her and just by listening to what she's saying.
Just by looking at her.
Just by looking at her and listening to what she's saying. You just know. No. You just know. And you know what this kid is learning is not what you want your children to be learning. And that's why we have PragerU Prep.
Yes. She's probably not a science teacher.
No, I would hope not.
No, probably not a gym teacher.
I'm definitely not a gym teacher.
That probably is a modern gym teacher. It looks like that. And just, you know,
at the gym I used to work at, actually, we had like a couple personal trainers who
did not
look like
trophies.
did not look like personal trainers. Anyway, we have PragerU Prep.
Yes, we do. And honestly, at this point, with how many videos we've seen of just teachers having complete and utter freakouts, it is very crazy to think about what your kids might be learning in their school systems. So PragerU has developed a program by the name of PragerU Prep, where you can go as a parent or a child who needs additional resources outside of your schooling to sort of control what your kid is being taught and have teaching that is reflective of your values and what you believe as a family. And if you go to PragerU.com/prep, you can check out all of the different resources that we have, all the way from K through 12. There are parent action guides. If you have problems happening in your school, like something with this teacher here, there is an action guide system where we teach you how to take care of that, how to reach out to your administration. There is study guides, book lists, essay prompts, everything you could ever really want in terms of your kids' education is at PragerU.com/prep. So I would recommend that you check that out, because like I said, these teachers here, like the one that we just caught in this video here, they're common. This is becoming very, very common in our institutions and in our public schools. And it's a scary thing to think about, but there are resources out there for you guys who are struggling with this.
You know why I like the name Prep?
Why?
It rolls off the tongue, but it also, prep is a good word because it's preparing students. The world is not like, this isn't an end-all be-all. Prep at PragerU is not an end-all be-all for you to just have all the information and hide your kid from the world so that they never hear any leftist views. This is prep, that it's prepping your children for the real world. It's prepping them for the things that they face out in society, out in the world, that are crazy leftist or anti-American. So you get this information to your kids, to your parents, to teachers even, and then they're ready to battle all of the things happening in society right now. It's not that you are taking them into a safe space of conservative thought where they're never hearing a different point of view. Right. It's that you are prepping them for the world ahead of them, which I think is an amazing thing, which I think is something that the left doesn't focus on. The left does not focus on preparing you for the world. Go to college right now and get out of college and ask yourself if you are prepared for the real world. You are not. You are not prepared for the real world at all. You don't even know how to write a check. or do your taxes
So
or
true.
anything like this. You have to watch YouTube videos on all these things. But Prep with PragerU is legitimately a great resource to actually have it so that your kids are ready to go off into the world and fight the battles that need to be fought.
Yeah, and it's sort of a sad thing to think about. When I think about politics and in my place in it, Will's place in it, Taylor's place in it, a lot of the scope of which I look at things is through the scope of children and through the lens of children. Because when I was a child, I wasn't worried about politics. Were you, Will?
Oh, no. I was more worried about. I loved Britney Spears.
You loved Britney Spears?
Yeah, I had a Scooby-Doo lunchbox, and I would cut out pictures of Britney Spears in my mom's magazines and put them in my Scooby-Doo lunchbox.
Yeah, I was
That
worried.
sounds too specific to be made up.
Yeah, it's not
really
made up. I swear, that's what I did.
Yeah, I was worried about Justin Bieber. I would get the little Tiger Beat magazines, pull out all the Justin Bieber photos. They were all over my wall. Did you have a similar obsession, Taylor?
Yeah.
No, we like traded we didn't trade sports cards, but we traded like Marvel cards. So I'd have like Venom, he was my favorite, so I had like a huge collection of Marvel cards, like just pages of them, and
See?
we'd like trade them.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm a little more of a 90s kid than you guys. so.
Taylor was really into Nick Lachey posters when he was a kid.
98 degrees.
Yeah.
No.
But the point being is when we were children, we were not worried about politics. We were not worried about gender. We were not worried about sexuality. And that's infiltrating our childhoods now in America. And it's so sad to think about protecting our kids in regard to these ideas because they really are in every facet of their world now, especially if your kid is attending public school. So much so that we have a very, very crazy story to share with you today. I found out about this website today called StitchBugStudio.com, and I'm going to show you what StitchBug is selling. They're selling something called the Bitty Bug Soft Packer, and if you can see the pictures here, this is no joke. It looks like exactly what you think it looks like. These are prosthetic private parts for children that identify as trans, particularly female children that identify as trans who want their genitals to look more like that of a little boy.
As for toddlers,
Yes, it's for toddlers.
that is just. We talked about this before we went live. I was like, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's like I don't even want to talk about this. It's so disgusting
Yep.
and vile and gross to think that you're doing this to children. It is a toddler. I mean, years and years. I mean, still a decade away from even going through puberty, even thinking about having sex at all, or even developing into an adult, and you are putting a fake penis in its pants so you can parade it around and say, "Oh, it's a boy now."
Yeah.
What
It's
a
insane.
disgusting, vile thing to do. It is literally satanic. It is horrible. That is such a disgusting thing.
And people say, why do you worry about what other people teach their kids? Why do you worry about what somebody else wants to do? It's because kids do not know what they want. And this is clearly indoctrination that is being set onto children by their parents. Kids don't have say in this type of stuff. A kid of this age, look at this. They have a little underpants, like little kids underpants. Clearly, this kid would not be cognizant enough to make a decision as to what gender they are. Yet this website writes here, thank you to the parents out there who support our trans youngsters, and we are honored to be a small part of the process.
Disgusting. This is why this might be kind of a hot take, I'll be honest, but I stand by it. People always have this argument of like, if they're doing something in their own home and it's not hurting you, just let it happen, right? And I can't get behind that. When I see something like this and people are like, well, they're doing it to their kids, it doesn't hurt you, like it doesn't matter. It's like, this does matter.
It does.
You shouldn't be allowed to do this to a child. It should be illegal to do
should.
this to a child, to put that into a child. I mean, it's disgusting. You should not be allowed to do this just because it's in your own home or you're not bothering anyone else. That's such a cop-out argument. It's like a dumb libertarian argument. It's dumb. You should not be allowed to do this to your children or sell this to children.
Yep. I mean, it's child abuse. I'll go ahead and say that too. Another hot take. It's child abuse. And to think that people think, oh, well, it's just a decision that my child wants to make, so I'm going to honor that decision. No. As a parent, you look at your child when they're doing something wrong or when they believe something that's wrong, and you say, no, that's wrong. That is your duty as a parent to shield your child from that side of harm, that sort of psychological abuse, that sort of problem. And to look at the statistics about how many trans people struggle with depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, it's crazy to me that you think it's okay to inflict this upon your children.
And I get that this is like a pretty niche thing. I highly doubt there are many people going out and buying this and saying like, oh, I can't wait to get this for my kid. I'm sure it's a very small minority of people. Okay, I get that. I understand that buying fake penises for your kid isn't an epidemic of things that are happening.
No.
But guys, we do this live stream every single day. every single day, Monday through Friday at 2:30 p.m. PST. And we do it every single day. And every day there's new stories of something that we talk about. And almost every day we talk about something new with children that has come up. Yeah. So it's like, yes, this is an isolated incident that maybe not that many people buy, and conservative media kind of blows it up a little bit. So a lot of people are talking about it. I get that. But when you have so many isolated incidents happening back to back to back every single day, it's no longer isolated incidents.
No, it's
this is a pattern. The left has some weird thing with children. Some weird thing with trans children that is so absolutely disgusting, which is why I could never be a leftist again. Why I hear leftists talk and I hear the things that they say and they talk about their ideas and stuff, and then I see this from the left and it's like, how can you seriously support this? How can you seriously be on board with that ideology? Like, there has to be something wrong in your brain to think that this is okay.
Yeah, and I will fight back on the people who say that this is just a small subset of the population now, because it's really not. It's coming to the forefront of our political discussion as far as social issues go. I mean, over the past couple of weeks, we've been seeing story and story and story after story about trans children. You saw it with Elliot Page being on Ellen. You see it with this product being sold here. You see it with Kellogg's coming out with a cereal box that allows your children to put their pronouns on it. You see it with little kids going to school and having drag queen story time. You see it with little kids going to kindergarten and being asked to pick their pronouns and choose what their name is and what their gender is. It is becoming far less isolated than it should be. And it is growing and growing and growing. And if people don't speak out and say that this is wrong, it is going to continue to grow. And like I said, with that comes mental illness. With that comes the suicide rate of the transgender community that will follow this issue, just as it follows people back in the day. It's going to keep happening, and it's going to get worse and worse the more that we normalize this as a society. So we have to talk about these things.
Go to the pictures of the women.
Yes, let's look at the 3 women who are behind this project here, if it'll load up for us. And I don't think you'll be surprised by what you see. Our internet is a little slow here today in the office, so
oh no,
it might not load up for us.
Also, the AC isn't working. It's super hot in here. Also, it's because we're going off today.
Yeah,
we just got a lot of energy in here.
We do a lot of energy, a lot of
blazing hot takes. Yeah. It's fire in here.
We've been having technical difficulties in the office today, which is not new.
No, definitely not new. Is it not loading?
No, it's not loading.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, like, when you're talking about how the universities that teach this woke leftist ideology does not prepare students for the real world, parents who raise their kids with this type of, that normalize this fake these things that aren't real, like it's teaching kids lies about themselves, lies about confusion about their identity, confusion about gender, all this stuff that indoctrinate their kids with leftist ideology. They're not preparing their kids for the real world, and that's what exactly leads to those outcomes of anxiety, depression, suicide, and stuff, because they're not leaving their home equipped for the real. They come out of that household, and then where do you think those type of parents are sending their kids? To universities and to get more woke indoctrination? You end up with the whole. Why do you think this generation, Gen Z, has the highest levels of anxiety, highest levels of depression, suicidal thoughts, all that kind of stuff? It's because they're being brought up in a world where the mainstream narrative that they're being taught does not correspond to reality. It doesn't work, and it doesn't prepare them to be strong, resilient individuals that can make their way in the world and handle adversity. We need all these safe spaces, and they're triggered by new ideas, and objective truth is white supremacy and just all this nonsense. And like you're saying, Will, you've got to stand up at some point, and it's way past time to stand up, and way past time to stop ceding ground to these evil people that are trying to distort and change reality. I heard someone say on a podcast the other day too that just like we stopped living in there was an age of enlightenment that came out of like the Dark Ages or whatever. We're past the Enlightenment age, and we're in like the age of postmodernism. And postmodernism is this distortion of reality, and we have to fight back and get back to where truth matters. You know?
This is what we talked about the other day with like the regression. Progressivism is now regressivism. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It only goes backwards from here. That sucks. All right, let's move on to the Prince Harry thing if this won't load. Essentially what we're going to do is show you the pictures of the women who started the site and show you that
they basically look like that teacher in the first.
Exactly. That is exactly what they look like.
There seems to be some continuity there. Yeah. And
bunch of dinks.
Yeah, when you talk about like our postmodernism regressive state, it's because we live in such a great place by living in the United States. We are very comfortable here. There is very little suffering that occurs in this country, contrary to what the left would have you believe. And when you live without suffering, it's very easy to pick little small things that are happening within your society, and as the left try to change them and make a whole movement around that. And a perfect example of somebody finding struggle where there is none is Prince Harry. And recently he's come out, he did a podcast interview where he talked about his life within the royal family and how he has genetic pain and suffering from being a part of it.
Genetic pain and suffering?
Genetic pain and suffering.
Isn't he white? I thought only black people had genetic pain and suffering.
Apparently, white royalty can also have genetic pain and suffering associated with being part of the royal family in England.
That's that pain in my neck that I always feel. It's my royal suffering.
Right. So he speaks about in depth about how Meghan Markle entered his life and how they had their time with the royal family and how the royal family was so racist towards Meghan and how she just couldn't take it anymore. So they came to America. Only issue is that Prince Harry now takes issue with the First Amendment here in America. He says, I don't really understand much about the First Amendment, but I think that it's bonkers.
What else did he say? Go to the. I want to hear exactly what he said because I don't want to misrepresent such a wise royal man like himself.
Here we go. Here's his quote. I've got so much I want to say about the First Amendment as I sort of understand it, but it's bonkers, Harry told the podcast. I don't want to start going down the First Amendment route because that's a huge subject and one which I don't understand because I've only been here a short time. But you can find a loophole in anything. You can capitalize or exploit what's not said rather than uphold what is said.
Bonkers.
It's bonkers.
That statement was bonkers. I couldn't follow anything.
Yeah, it doesn't even make any sense.
It's
no
like
wonder
this-
you're not talking about the First Amendment. You don't even know what it is.
You know a pseudo-intellectual when you see one,
Yes.
and Prince Harry is by far a pseudo-intellectual. There's no doubt about it. Just by reading that statement alone, you can tell.
He didn't have his wife there to like tell, make the
Yeah.
talking points
Right.
that to
Exactly.
puppet the usual
I
leftist
know.
talking
He
points.
didn't
So
have
he's just
big,
like,
cards.
it's just bonkers, mate.
It's like the First Amendment used to be a very sacred thing, especially, here in America, it was a very sacred thing. That's where we have the First Amendment. But, back in the 1970s, literal Nazis went out in, I forget the city that it was, but it was a very Jewish city. These were literal Nazi skinheads. They went out in a Jewish city and Jewish neighborhood, and they basically said, screw Jewish people, right? And they hated the Jewish people. And they were sued and everything. And then the ACLU, an organization that used to stand for something, stood by the Nazis and said they had the legal right to go out and protest in this neighborhood. As long as they weren't being violent or threatening anyone specifically, they were able to go out in this neighborhood, and they won the lawsuit, right? They won the lawsuit. The Nazis won the lawsuit that they were allowed to do this. The First Amendment used to be something that everyone in America upheld as something that we needed. That was a virtue. That we were the only country ever to be founded on the first things first, that you have the ability to speak your mind and to protest and to have your own religion, all of this. And now it's like totally the opposite, where I go to marches, like I've gone to marches and just gone out and interviewed people on the street, and they literally say like, no, I don't really believe in the First Amendment anymore. Or if you're saying something that hurts someone's feelings, you shouldn't be allowed to say it. There's a literal video of me asking a chick that at Berkeley, and she says that exact same thing. If you're saying something that's hurtful, you shouldn't be allowed to say it. ACLU, which used to defend Nazis, is now on, not saying the Nazis are good. We're just saying, they used to defend, it was anyone could have the right to free speech. And they would defend these types of people. Now they're on Twitter posting about how men can have periods.
Yep.
It's like the things that we used to hold sacred in America are no longer sacred.
And it's because people have no reference as to the history of our country, as to the history of other countries, where they have no reference as to how a country works or how it falls when there is a lack of a First Amendment. There is a lack of freedom of speech, of press, of religion, of assembly, of petition. It's just crazy. And now you look at the world today where their only reference of America is through social media and the things that they see by the left and all these platforms that are controlled by the left. So it's very easy to indoctrinate somebody into thinking that the First Amendment is unimportant, and that is exactly what is happening.
You see that newsroom clip? This came out years ago, but it was that newsroom clip where it's who's the guy from Dumb and Dumber?
Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey?
No,
or,
not Jim Carrey. The other one.
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels. And he's in that news. You know what I'm talking about? And he's like, someone asked him if America's the best country.
Oh,
and he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, all these other countries, they're the best countries ever. And like, America sucks. And it's like, he's talking about free speech. And he's like, all these other countries have freedom. And it's like, they really don't. They really don't. Look at these other countries and look at how America is with that it is a God-given right that you have the ability to speak your mind. No other constitution is built upon the fact that this was a right endowed on you by your creator, that this is a right that is given to you not by your government, but by your creator, okay? That the founding fathers knew this. This is why we are the best country ever, because we were set up in this way specifically, right? No other country has that. Yeah. And so the fact that that is being disbanded in America goes into the fact that, yes, the left doesn't want you to support God, and the left doesn't want you to be able to speak your mind against what they are doing, right? So it is a coordinated attack on both of these pillars of America at once to try and take this country down. If you don't think it's a coordinated attack, you got to wake up and open your eyes, buddy, because they've been doing this for years, and they are trying to take us down by first taking away your right to speak and then taking away your right to pray to whoever you want to.
Yeah, and if people don't understand that if everyone is not protected by the First Amendment, no one is protected by the First Amendment. Of course, that's absent of being violent, like we spoke about, and harming people. But it's such an important right that we get to exercise here in this country, and it's something that makes us unique as a people. And people bear no importance on it anymore. They don't want to protect it anymore. And if anything, we look at the First Amendment as though it's okay, you can say whatever you want as long as I feel safe and protected by what you say. And that's a horrible lens to look at the world through, and that is where we're going right now as a nation. And it's very, very scary, because if they can come for us, which they are as conservatives, they can come for anyone. And I'm sure you've heard that quote time and time again, but that is exactly true, and that is why we have built the system the way that we have here in this country.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that it's just ironic that people on the left go around, they say, we hate the First Amendment, or we don't agree with all this freedom of speech stuff and all of that, and it's like, you are exercising your freedom of speech to say that. You understand that you are using your First Amendment rights to say that you disagree with something. Imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if conservatives owned Hollywood, owned the media, owned the universities, all of this. It was the other way around. And we said anyone who speaks bad about the First Amendment should be not allowed to say it, right? How would they feel then? They'd say, no, we need the First Amendment now, right? So it's just fascist, right? So it's just so ironic that these people can go around bashing the freedom of speech. Big tech can go around taking away conservatives' right to speak. But just imagine if it was their shoe on the other foot. Is that the term?
If the shoe were on the other foot.
If the shoe were on the other... if my shoe was on their foot, But just like imagine that, they think they have it so good because they are the majority in this, but one day that might not be the case.
Yeah, when you don't, and to your point, Will, when you don't treat rights as sacred, when you lose that, look at what's happening in the other countries that, like you said, what makes America distinct is that, we believe in bestowed rights that are sacred, that come from God. And look at what's happening in Canada, look at what's happening in Australia, what's happening in the UK. There's all these massive protests. At Canada, they're flashing SOS at the border, saying, come help us. They're not letting us leave our homes. And there's we saw Amala the other day, that video of hundreds of people protesting in the UK, just people wanting their basic freedoms back because there's these nonsensical regulations that they're just having to follow, and because their government their priorities not rights. It's not this sacred thing, and we've seen bits and pieces of that in some of the cities. That we've seen it in LA, we've seen it across America. But that's going back to that idea of we're slipping past that enlightenment era where we care about objective truth, where that's sacred, and where we care about bestowed rights, and those are sacred. And now nothing is sacred. And to the left, it's they will sacrifice objectivity, they will sacrifice rational thought, they will sacrifice logic, they will sacrifice the truth, they will sacrifice rights on the altar of their utopian vision. And the end justifies the means is the great lie that gives the left a moral leg to stand on in their own minds, to take away rights, to violate them. And that's how you end up with Nazi Germany, with all the the evils that we've seen perpetrated in the name of Marxism around the world.
And it's hard to fight back against that type of thinking because, again, it's not founded in logic, and they're fighting on a battleground that is inherently immoral. And we as conservatives are the ones standing on the other side saying, no, you have to have morals, you have to have values, you have to adhere to tradition. And how do you fight the left on a battleground of which you're not playing with the same rules? Exactly. There's no rules on the left, and we are the ones trying to reinstate them, trying to conserve them, trying to keep them around in this country. And we lose because we can't fight fire that they have. We can't. We're trying, and they are just so devoid of logic. And every day it gets crazier and more extreme, going as far as to say that we are anti-First Amendment, which is just insane. Yeah. How do you fight that sort of thinking?
And the UK is the definite worst. The UK is the worst. The UK has basically, I mean, they have knife attacks going up, they have acid attacks going up, and while in the meantime, their Facebook or their police officers are arresting people for misleading Facebook posts.
Yep.
So I mean, these places do not have the freedom that America has, and it is truly under attack here. I hope that there's a big wake up. I hope that people start to wake up.
I was going to say, Amala, your story gives me a lot of hope, because I do believe that like human beings on like a very like, you know, deep and essential level just crave truth, or like at least, you know, you can kind of sense when you're being lied to, or whenever you wake up and realize like, hey, you need like integrity as a person, you need integrity of thought. And when you're like, what you've been taught doesn't work in the real world, kind of like we were talking about earlier, you start to have this cognitive dissonance. And when that gets loud enough, or whenever, you know, that moment happens where like, holy crap, you fight like existentially, you fight like crazy to try to keep your just delusional worldview intact, but I think that some point for some people you have to hope that there comes a point where all that can come crumbling down and you kind of get red pilled or awakened to the truth.
I think the truth is what most humans go towards, is that what we want to go towards, but I think that lies are just so much easier. It's like being tempted to sin. Of course, it's so much easier to sin and not go towards a good moral life, but it's obviously the right way to live that good moral life and to tell the truth and to search out truth. But the lies are so much easier, right? So if you can shatter yourself from the lie or from the truth and just have a world full of all these lies and anti-First Amendment and all this leftist jargon with baby penises being put in a underwear thing that they're selling on this website, like all of that is so much easier than having to actually look at the world through a clear lens of truth.
Yeah, I would say I'm a short-term pessimist, long-term optimist, because I think when it comes to people seeking the truth, one of the ways that you do that is by watching your ideas fail. And unfortunately, I think we as conservatives are going to have to go through that, where we see the left sort of put into place their ideology, their thinking on a large scale here in America, and they will have to watch it fail themselves to really recognize what the true problem is. I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not what we have to go through, and that's why we work every day here at PragerU to tell you what's going on, to give you our opinions, to hopefully change people's minds. And I just hope to God that we never get to the point where people are waking up because they've failed us.
It's tough. Like, you know, speaking of watching your ideas fail, like we live in Los Angeles and it's literally at our doorstep every day. Every day we drive to work. Like, I forget that it's like not normal to most people in America to like see garbage all over their streets and, you know, and have get tax the hell out of you. And all you have to show for it is like, you know, literally not being able, I had to move neighborhoods because homeless people slept outside my window and argued with each other in the middle of the night and smoked pot, and the cops wouldn't do anything about it, you know. And like, you talk about ideas failing, like the ideas that are governing like our blue city, like we just saw this weekend, like almost another 50 people were shot in the city of Chicago. It's like everywhere you look around the country, you know, look at the border, look all over the place. It's like anywhere you can see which ideas are failing, and you can see the result, and you can see, you know, that they don't work. And I don't know how much, and I think a lot of people are waking up. A lot of like, you know, centrist people or even, you know, like Joe Rogans and stuff are leaving California because like, yeah, these ideas suck. They're not working.
But I don't think people I don't think people get the right information, because all of these ideas, all of these leftist ideas have been tried. I mean, look at minimum wage in Seattle. It failed. Taking away people's guns, that failed from the Jews in Nazi Germany. The communist, all those sorts of ideas, it failed in Soviet Russia, Afghanistan, China. I mean, all of these different leftist ideas have failed time and time again. All of them. I mean, the things that we talk about every day, that we talk about on the stream, that I've talked about in my book that comes out. I mean, all of these ideas have all failed over and over again, but people just aren't reading it. They're not knowing that this information is out there. It's actually, again, they're not searching for the truth. They're searching for the lies, and they're not doing the actual work to find out the truth. This is why, again, the First Amendment is so important, because we need to be able to at least have the ability to express the truth of these shortcomings of all the things that have happened in history in the world, right? We have to be able to say that. Otherwise, things will continue to get worse. And then your little place in Boise, Idaho is going to look like Los Angeles, California. Maybe less homeless people because they don't like the cold as much. But it's still going to be pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's very true. Because it's so easy to tell people, well, look how many people communism has killed. Look how many people socialism has killed. And they'll just look at you and say, well, it hasn't been done right yet. Because they believe in the foundations of it. They believe in the redistribution of wealth. They believe in this sort of utopic view of society, that by somehow doing that, you will fix all of the world's problems. And it doesn't matter how many times you show them that it doesn't work. They just simply believe that it has not been done right yet.
And I think to Will's point again, like there's something about their ability to package, like there's a very like basic appeal that, you know, leftist ideology, it like simplifies things into like, oh, well, we need to sympathize with these people, or, oh, we need to redistribute wealth. And it's like, it feels good. And it's like a simplistic answer to a much more complicated thing. But it's like Will said, it's like, a, you know, the same way it's like tempting to sin, it's like tempting to believe leftist ideas and embrace them as explanatory of how the world really is and how it works. But the problem is that it doesn't. And so you have to go deeper, and it's hard and it's nuanced, and you have to dig and get the facts, and you have to do the hard work. And until you do, you're going to keep making policies and keep running the world, and it's going to, things are keep going to getting worse. And it works on an individual level too. If you try to live your life by this ideology, it doesn't work. You become miserable, you become depressed, you become anxious. Like look at our generation. In the same way, we're trying to run the society on these ideas, and it's failing. But I just wonder, like, what's it going to take for us to hit rock bottom? And I hope and pray that like it doesn't get worse, you know, it has to get so much worse, and America's so far gone before we start to wake up. But that's what we're working for.
It's like going through school. It's like, what are the easy things to remember? Like slavery was bad and white people are bad, or versus teaching like 1 million people died in Cambodia because of communism, and going into like the inner political workings of that, right? So it's like there's so much more to learn out there that we just hope you guys continue to learn. It's so important. I love learning. I hate school, but I love learning.
Yeah,
I mean, I
right?
dropped out of school twice. I did really well in school. I had a 4.2 in high school. And then I had like a 1.4 in college.
I did very well. I was the best student.
I was the most tremendous student. You know it. My teachers know it. Everybody knows it.
Everyone's talking about what a great student I was.
But guys, I really do hope you keep learning and watching PragerU videos and everything we're doing. We have tons of videos on all sorts of topics: history, politics, science,
Everything, really. There's so much to look at.
There's so much.
There's too many to list. I mean,
You guys are just going to have to check it out for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, economics, life skills, anything you want to know, we have available to you on PragerU.com. And it's so hard to find the right information these days. And it's a struggle that we even go through daily. We have to sift through mountains and mountains of information to find what's really true. And we want to make it life easier for you all so that you don't have to do that. And that's sort of why we do the work that we do.
Yes. So go to PragerU.com. Make sure you guys, if you heard it before, check out Prep if you're a parent or educator. And that's about it. Follow me and Amala on social media, and Taylor too if you got the time, but probably don't. Too busy watching PragerU videos. But
that is the show for you today.
I am so glad that you guys watched the show.
Thank you. Au revoir.
Yeah.
au revoir.